Hey there everyone, and today I want to talk to you about something that Matthew Perry said in the recent Friends reunion. Now, growing up as a child of the 80s and a teenager in the 90s, Friends was the show. You know, it was the show to watch, following it along, living our lives vicariously through the lives of these 30-somethings, well 20-somethings at the beginning on TV, and thinking about coffee shop culture and New York lifestyle and all this stuff. But for me, Chandler was the one, right? A lot of people might have been following Ross and Rachel, and obviously we were as well, but for me, Chandler was the one. He was the funniest guy. Back at that point in my life, I was totally and utterly using sense of humour as a suit of armour for me. Like, I wanted to be the funny one. I wanted to get the laughs, and no one quite got the laughs like Chandler. He was the funny guy in the whole show. So it may come as a bit of a surprise that when the reunion came around recently, Chandler was quoted as saying that I felt like I would die if I didn't get the laugh. Now, what Chandler was doing in this situation, he opens up about his own anxiety, and I think it's great that such a kind of big star and someone that we always looked at them like this. He was the swan, you know? He was gliding gracefully through comedy along the top, and everybody wanted to be like him. But underneath was the shaking legs, was the frantic kicking. And as a result of all that, he felt a hell of a lot of anxiety back then. Now, in particular, the part of anxiety that Matthew Perry was experiencing back then is what's called catastrophizing, is you see a scenario in your head and you see the worst case scenario version of that situation. So in his head, he wasn't thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go out there and die if they all laugh. If it goes well, if I hit all my lines and things are fantastic, then that's what I'm worried about. He was never worried about the best case scenario. And that is often the case when it comes to anxiety in our lives as well. It's hardly ever that we're sat there worrying about the best case scenario. The only time that really comes up is we're worried about the extra work we might have to do if everything goes as well as it could do. Now, instead of that, what we do is we look at the worst case scenario, and we often catastrophize into how could this possibly go wrong. It's like the old Dr. Pepper adverts, what's the worst that could happen? The good news about this though is that it's quite easy to train ourselves to overcome this, and what we actually have to do is the exact opposite. We go into what is the best case scenario. You imagine the situation. The way anxiety works is that the thoughts about a situation lead us with feelings. If you were to fantasize about a good situation, you would feel the positive emotions that go along with that. However, if you were to dwell on a negative situation, you would feel the fear and the lack of confidence and the things that come along with that. Now, what this tends to do is put us into a state where it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a situation where if we're worried about the worst thing happening, let's say you're worried about not getting the laugh, then what happens if a joke falls flat? Some jokes fall flat. Sometimes you don't get the laugh. But the thing is, so many times, what we're actually laughing at isn't necessarily the actual joke. It's how the person sells it to us. It's the person's performance. And that's one of the things that made Matthew Perry so amazing, is his delivery of those lines. These lines, could I be any more prepared? It's like these lines are echoed throughout time now and mimicked everywhere, but no one quite delivered it the way that he did. But if you imagine getting yourself into an emotional state where you think everything's gonna fall flat, and as a result, it takes a little bit of the punch, it takes a little bit of the wind out of your sails, and as a result, you deliver the joke flat, and now you're more than likely increasing the chances that you're actually going to meet your destiny on the path that you choose to avoid it. Now, on the flip side of this, if we bring ourselves into thinking about the best case scenario, what that then does is invites into now the positive feelings that are associated with things going well. If you imagine yourself getting out on that stage and everybody laughing, what it's going to do is it's going to actually build you up as if you're already warmed up, as if you've already got a few of those laughs under your belt and that momentum is already there. When we see the best case scenario and when we catastrophize in the positive, what we then do is we make that much more of a self-fulfilling prophecy and make it more likely that we're going to get the result that we're going for. It puts us in a better state of mind, and that better state of mind leads to a better performance. That better performance leads to better feedback, and the loop now continues in a positive, reinforcing way that actually helps us. So the two big take-homes of this: number one, you do not know what is going on beneath the surface. So if you sit there and think, I wish I could be funny like him, or I wish I could be confident like him, you don't know what's going underneath. You actually probably could be that if you were to act in that same way. Don't put yourself down and put yourself in a box just because you're aware of what's actually going on under the surface. And number two, turn visualization to your favor by positively catastrophizing about what's the best that could happen. Because either way around, you're going to invite the emotions of the actual visualization into now. And if you invite those better emotions into now, you're going to get a better outcome. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this content, and if you have, please hit that subscribe button and maybe even switch on the notifications so you can be notified whenever new videos go live, and I will see you soon.